Okay, so now we're going to have a look at some of the special safety things that you need to check on your bike before you go out on your ride. Number one, brakes. Okay, most bikes should have the two levers, left and right. That's for your front and rear wheels. So just make sure they're both working properly. You can squeeze them easily, but they don't go in too close to the handlebars. If you can squeeze your brake lever to the handlebars, it means it's not going to be effective at stopping you. So a good way to quickly check, hands on the handlebars, both hands squeezing the brake levers. You shouldn't be able to push your bike forward, okay? And that's a good sign that your brakes are working effectively. Just lifting the front wheel, give it a little spin of the wheel. It should spin freely without rubbing, okay? If that's not the case, you're going to have to get an adult or a bike shop to help you adjust those brakes, because that's a really important safety feature. So another really important part is tyres, okay? Make sure that your tyres are well inflated. So pressing down on your thumb on the top of the tyre. If you can't press that in, your tyres should be nicely inflated. If you can press your thumb into that quite easily, your tyres are too soft and they need pumping up. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, there's a couple of different types of pumps you might have. This is like your standard traditional pump, just a hand pump. Just pushes the air through, and on the end there is where you'll put that into the valve to make sure it works. Or you might have a large one like this, which is a bit easier to get the air pressure in. Got a long tube, push that onto the valve, and putting your feet on it, push up and down that way. Okay, either way, open up your valve. They can be different sizes. This one is the thinner type, so make sure that your pump matches the size of the valve. Push it down and lock it in, and then start pumping. Keep pumping until you can feel that tyre nice and firm. Let it go, release, tie it back up, tighten it back up, and put your cap back on. Now your tyres may have a different type of valve, what they call a car valve, just even simpler to do. It's just a slightly wider valve. Another important thing to check is your saddle. First of all, it should generally be quite flat. Sometimes I see people with seats angled forward or back, but generally quite level is the best. And the height is quite important. A rough guide, it should be about the same height as your hip. So you feel that little bone that sticks out on your hip, your saddle should be roughly the same height. Another way you can test is to stand on your bike, and you should be able to sit on your saddle and your feet should touch the ground. Okay, so to adjust the seat height, we need to get an Allen key, which is a little tool like those. You've probably seen those around. If not, your parents will certainly have them. And you have to use that to get into the little bolt to adjust the clamp on this seat tube. So we loosen that off with the Allen key. When it's loose, we can lift the seat up a little bit, just adjust it, make sure it's still nice and straight, and then use your Allen key to tighten that clamp back up again. To adjust the level, the tilt on the seat, there's another little nut there with the same Allen key. You just adjust, loosen that, tilt your seat backwards or forwards, but trying to keep it as level as possible at all times. Most bikes will have gears. That just makes it easier to pedal when you're going uphill. You pedal more times for a smaller amount of distance. So check your gear levers, usually on your handlebars near your brakes. You'll have the little gear levers. You usually click or push up or down to move them. Check that those levers are working okay, and also make sure on the back that is moving your chain up or down to make those gears work well. If they're not, you're going to probably have to go to a bike shop and get them properly adjusted.
One of the most common problems or complaints I hear about are people who have a rusty or noisy chain on their bike. So it's important to keep our chains maintained by a good quality oil. You can get an oil from your bike shop, speak to your bike shop and try and get a recommended oil. So just set your bike up somewhere where it's stable. Okay, just a few drops of oil every couple of seconds. Just drop a few little drops of oil whilst rotating backwards your pedals, and that'll get the oil into the chain and get it nicely lubricated. We don't want too much excess oil on our chain, so just with a soft cloth after you've put the oil on, just gently hold it under the chain and run it backwards, and you'll see that you'll get a little bit of gunk off. That's okay. We'll just turn it around, and we do it on top as well, so just to make sure that the oil gets into those links and really makes the chain nice and smooth, and you can hear that it's running so much quieter now. One of the annoying things that sometimes happens when you're riding your bike is that your chain might slip off the cog. So you can put it on with just your fingers, but your fingers are probably going to get a little bit dirty with the oil from the chain. So if you look around, you might find something like, oh, here, I've found a stick. So with the stick, just gently prop it under the chain and just trying to get a couple of the links onto that chain ring, and then lift the back of the bike and rotate the pedals, and there we are, back on the chain ring and ready for riding. If this happens quite often, it might be that your gears might need a little bit of adjustment, so it's probably best to take your bike to your local bike shop and ask the bike mechanic to adjust the gears for you. Happy riding.